number one. Very foolish question. This is your first visit to Japan.
In fact, no, it's not my first visit in Japan. But first, I was there a long time ago as violinist for a tour with a chamber orchestra. It was 3 weeks in Japan, and it was one of my best memory about touring because of your marvelous hall. So I'm really happy now to come back as a conductor.
I see. So, you said that you came to Japan as a violinist.
Exactly.
So you were violinist, or you are violinist.
Exactly. I have I come from a musical family. So I have a father who is a composer and a mother who is a singer too. So it's brother cellist, a sister pianist. So it was really this kind of atmosphere in my family. Everything was around music. And I was violinist, so I have a first life as violinist. I had a quartet. I was concertmaster of different orchestras, and just after that I decided to focus on my first love, who is conducting.
Oh. So you decided to be violinist by yourself, or your family forced you to play? Pierre, you should play violin.
No, in fact, my family they were really kind with us. Everything was about music, but they never pushed us as crazy. So it was just when I was 12, for sure, when I was really young, they introduced me the violin, and I decided to play. I loved immediately this sound and this instrument that you can have really close of your, of you. It's something so intimate. So I was really in love with this instrument, and after that, for sure, they pushed me a little to work as a child. It was not so easy to work every day. But after a moment when I was 12, my father told me, now if you want to become a musician, you need to decide yourself. It's your choice. And when I was 12, I really remember that it was not possible for me to imagine life without music.
I see. So you say that your father was a composer. In this world, in 20th century, composer means many things for pop kind of composers, or what is called contemporary Schoenberg or Ligeti kind of composers. Which composer was your father was?
Yeah, my father studied with André Jolivet, this great composer, a French composer, and he known very well Messiaen too, so it was this kind of atmosphere and this kind of language. We were really early. I was used to hear this new language about music. We played a lot of chamber music together, so Schubert, Beethoven, and all the repertoire. And after that, I was always used to listen new sounds, new harmonies. And really young, I was lucky to meet Pierre Bleuse too. He was at home with us, so I learned a lot about all these great musicians. And naturally, I saw a lot of concerts really young and a lot of great conductor, and it was immediately something so special for me that I really, I understood that it was what I wanted, to express music in this way. I think was something really special.
So for you, what is called the modern music is very familiar.
Yes, modern music, for sure, before the pop and the rock and roll and everything, the classical music was everything. You had opera, who was popular, and the classical music. But after that, for sure, we had this two different ways. We had this way with contemporary music after the Viennese School, second Viennese School, and Pierre Bleuse and all this movement, musical movement. And in the same times, you had this. We discovered a lot with the jazz, and after that, rock and roll and the pop, a new way of express music. But for my feeling, it was always the same. It means all the great musicians try to be inspired by the popular music. It was, for the ancestral music, for example, Boulez traveled a lot in Africa, as Ligeti did, and to try to reproduce this kind of antique music. And when you hear the pop and the rock and roll, the same. They used to be inspired by the element things that we can find in the folklore and in the antique music. So I think it's just different way to say emotions and to look the world around us. But for sure, after a moment, the people used to listen easily the music that we have on radio, and on radio you have more pop, rock and roll than modern music, unfortunately.
Why you decided to make your job? The word job is not so correct, but as a conductor.
Because after a long moment, I was in love with violin too. It was my instrument, and I played quartet and a lot of
chamber music
and orchestras, and it was for me a marvelous time, and I learned a lot with the violin. After that, it was conducting was always in my mind, always here. And when I was really young too, I decided with some friends to conduct some little anthem, to build some orchestra. So it was really natural. And I decided in 2010 really to jump in this first passion, first love of conducting. I remember that I conducted, they asked me, I was concertmaster in the chamber orchestra in Toulouse, and they asked me to conduct a Mozart symphony. And I was lucky because some cameras were there, and it was an opportunity for me to send it to Jorma Panula in Finland, a huge teacher of conducting, and he invited me there, and after this moment it was really the beginning of my conductive life. I decided to focus on this art that I love so much.
I see. Next question is, that's a huge question. You are going to conduct the French pieces in Kobe.
Sure.
Ravel's concerto and also Mamel.
Yeah.
What is the most important thing for French music?
It's an interesting question. It's difficult to answer because for sure the French music seems really natural for me. Seems really natural in my body, in my spirit, because I lived with this aesthetic all my life. So it was something really natural. But now, with the world we learned a lot about a lot of different music too. And so I think there is a new generation really open about repertoire and about different cultures. So I love to combine in my programming a different kind of music. And I'm really curious about different style of composer and of culture. So I always try to be curious, to stay curious, and to develop a lot of repertoire, of variety of repertoire. To answer to your question about the French music, I think something important is about, for example, if we speak about Ravel, because there is a lot of different French music, it's not possible to say there is one way to conduct French music, because there is a lot of different composers. If you just speak about Debussy and Ravel, we have two completely different musicians. And the type of orchestration is really, really It's kind of opposite things. So for Ravel, I think the details about articulation and about transparency of the sound is really, really important. It's not a question with Ravel about a direct emotional playing. The emotion just appears with the clear interpretation of the articulation of the well-balanced harmonies and then the purity of sound. So, for example, for the strings, there's a lot to do about bow. For the strings, bow is everything. So the way to use bow is exactly the same thing for a singer, the way he will use his breath, so the way to speak. So I think first we need to understand how to use bow to play this kind of music. Sometimes we need to have a lot of imagination about sound because in this music there is a lot of poetry, I think so. So if you understand, if you try to make happy with all those different elements, the clarity of the articulation and the poetry of the sound, suddenly appears something so special that you cannot find it in another music.
The other question is that you are going to conduct Ives' Third Symphony.
Yeah.
And people think your profile and you as a director of the Ensemble Ante Contemporain. So that's the reason why, or something like that.
Yeah.
Can you explain about the Charles Ives' Third Symphony?
So it will be the first time I will conduct this symphony, and I'm so happy because Ives represents in the history of the music something really special. This symphony, I think, if my memory is well, composed in '47. And it was something really special. Charles Ives won a big prize at that time with this symphony, and it was this kind of avant-garde in US. So for me it was always a symbol in the US side about modernity. And in this symphony was really classical in a way. It's a symphony with 3 movements, and you can have something sometimes really similar with the sound than you can find with Ravel. So it's really interesting for me to show this both colors, the French and the US aesthetic, but with Ives, I just conducted now Central Park in the Dark and Unanswered Question a few weeks ago, and he saw this genius of these composers to the imagination and the possibility to explore, a lot of about tonality and about when he was young, he loved to sing with his father. Father played piano, but he tried to sing in a different tonality at the piano. So it was already something that he liked to do, to play with harmony and with tonality, and it was difficult to do. But it was this kind of games that Ives loved, and you can feel in this music this kind of complexity, but with so much beauty. So I think it's really important, and it's not too often played, and the audience, the musicians need to stay curious and to discover music. I think art is about that. It's about if we can ask ourselves why we go to a concert hall. If it's just to listen to the music we know, or it's to discover things, to be, sometimes you need to be moved by new things. It's not, art need to show a way, I think. So it's important to always, when you program, to try to, for sure, to play the big pieces of the patrimoine we have, so marvelous, but try to bring the new elements for the audience.
Private and very foolish question to ask. When I personally listen Ives symphonies, those kind of musics, I always listen, oh, my beloved charming melody comes at last. And all I remember is, oh, here comes some, famous chant or something like that.
You need inspired from the popular things.
Popular.
Yeah.
Maybe, and after that, after listening the Ives symphony, all I remember is, there are a lot of popular music in it. I think this way of listening is foolish or correct. The word correct is not so...
For sure, I think it's correct, and it's really interesting because it's, for the third symphony, it was first some pieces for organ he wrote, and it was a religious inspiration. But for sure, there is, if you look all the huge composers in the classical period too, with Mozart, with Haydn, with Beethoven, with Schubert, and after that with Ligeti, for example, or with Ive, you have a lot of element of popular music. Sometimes it's like this combination between street music, because these people, these composers, these huge composers, before to be some icons like this, they were just human people, and they lived in their world, and they listened to everything, and the sensibility they had, was so deep. They were able to be inspired by a popular element, and after that to transcribe with the new language. I think it's the real beauty of this classical world. I really hate the classical, this term, because it means nothing. We played music from the really old time to the modern time, but this kind of way to express music is really interesting, to how the composer took time to have a new languages, but if you really listen, if you take time to go inside the language, you can, as you just said, listen a lot of element of popular things, and it's what is so marvelous. It's connected with real life. It's not only in the head. We always think that contemporary music, for example, it's music for intellectual people. It's totally wrong. I think it's just a way to enter inside. We need time, but if you take time to, if I come in Japan and I absolutely don't understand your marvelous language, so it's difficult in the beginning, because you listen a lot of people speaking and you don't understand absolutely nothing. But with time, with work a little, if you want to learn, suddenly you will understand the melody of the language, and after that some words. And so it means exactly the same with music. If music is a language, for example, if you want to enter in a new language, take time to do it. It's not like, the express pleasure. It doesn't exist with art. I think you can have a big sensation at the beginning, but after that you need to take time to listen again, and to come again to the concert, to understand a new language. So everything is about time, and we are in a century where everything needs to be fast. So art is the opposite.
Thank you. And now you were the director of the Ensemble Art Contemporain, and also you're having the position in the Odense Symphony Orchestra. Yes. And now you are going to conduct the in Kobe Chamber Orchestra. Yeah. What is the difference between chamber orchestra and big orchestra, and also kind of contemporary modern ensembles? What is there any differences or same?
It's really interesting because I come from, as we said in the beginning, from the chamber music, and after that chamber orchestra, and there's a big symphony orchestras and ensemble. So there's a lot of different way to work with an orchestra. Finally, the objectives, the goal is the same, is to obtain the interpretation of the work you will play the most beautifully possible. But when you play with a chamber orchestra, sometimes you have a little more time to speak about details. The same with the ensemble, for example. And so I love this. I love to share with musicians, and because of the size of the orchestra, it's easier to be connected with every musician in the chamber orchestra. So you can have this musical contact even more deeper. And but finally, and when you have the huge orchestra, you need to immediately have the huge form, and so it's a little, the timing of the rehearsal is a little different. I love both, I should say, but I like to have this kind of different way to approach the musicians and to approach the connection about technical things, how to make it sound, how to understand the phrasing, the language, and to try to help the musicians to play better.
So, in the sense, you was a member of the Sati Quartet.
Yeah.
That experience means a lot for you as a conductor.
For sure, it means everything. For me, you know, I learned everything with quartet, about intonation, about passions, about working with 3 other persons 10 hours by day. It means you need to learn how to, you know, to be as a human person, to listen to other people, to the other musicians, to obtain what you want finally. But it means that you need to have this human intelligence, not only the musical focus. And after that, with the orchestra, finally, it's not exactly the same, but what I learned with the quartet gave me a lot of keys, I think, for my life as a conductor today.
I see. The reason why I asked this question is the former music director of this Kobe's orchestra was Gerhard Basse, who was Gewandhaus quartet for first violinist.
Marvelous.
And also the former, now the music director of Kobe is as a cellist, bass cellist of the, you know, Suzuki Hidemi's. So in that sense, the directors of this Kobe orchestra is basically, you know, kind of those kind of chamber musicians.
Sure.
So they really love your work.
but and I think it's so important for even more for chamber orchestra because you know I know because when I played I was concertmaster in the chamber orchestra. Everything was about the prolongation of my life of chamber musicians. We need to speak about bow, about articulation, about dynamic. It's like chamber music, and sometimes you can play with the chamber orchestra without conductors, and so it means the conductor is not there to make the policeman, but he's there to just to bring ideas and to help to the listening of between all the musicians. So in this way, it's I think it's good to use to. You know, I always consider my life as a conductor as a chamber musician. It's the prolongation of these words. I listen a lot to the orchestra too, and I think it's really important, this kind of communication. So for you, the audience, the people of the city of Kobe, I'm so excited about the fact to come to visit us, to visit your marvelous culture. I'm really in love with your culture, and I think Japan is one of the most beautiful countries. As I said in the beginning, I had the chance to have 3 weeks in the past as violinist in your country, and now to come back as a conductor is something special for me. So really happy to discover your orchestra and to share with them and to offer to you a marvelous concert. So join us to the concert.